The next guest speaker that I want to introduce, we had actually met years ago, and then we kind of reconnected, and she has a very, I don't even know where she's at. Because I was going to say she has a very familiar face. She's the CEO of Your Resource, making a difference from beginning to end. Lillian McMorris is the former KVVU TV Fox Public Affairs Director and producer-host of AM Southern Nevada, the longest running public affairs television show in the state of Nevada. Additionally, she reported on community events for Fox 5 News. For 9 years, she worked within the community of KVVU TV, Fox 5's ambassador, building the Fox 5 franchise of being the station for community service. Lillian is considered a social architect, bringing people, needs, solutions, and information as one. And we reconnected just recently because we were both asked to be at a Girl Scout meeting for Career Day. And so we kind of reconnected then, and we have been friends ever since. So, and Lillian, I don't even know where you're at. Where? Lillian! The familiar face, Lillian. Will you please go up? Thank you. I think you might need to turn it on. Okay, so Lillian, thank you for coming today. I know you are a very busy woman, as we all are, but man, you are very, very busy. And she was at an event last night, and she couldn't make it to the networking mixer. And so I found out something about you when we were at Rainbow's End, and you were talking about how you were adopted. So I'd like for you to talk a little bit about your background as far as that and how that affected your life.
Busy is what I do, and due to the fact that you couldn't hear me when she was commenting on that, I just left a 3-day conference, business expo actually, and came here this morning. So I'm like, my energy level, believe it or not, is still up but down, if that means anything. But being adopted, everybody thinks of it as a negative, and my experiences were just the opposite. My mother died when I was born. She had epilepsy and had a seizure. And my dad was quite the gadabout, as one would say, in this town with some high-profile people, and was not the father type image. But he found an elderly couple who wanted a little girl. And I often talk about it because they always talk about BAPS, Black American Princess. I was the first one because my dad carried me around on a pillow until it's time for me to go to kindergarten. I went to Vegas Verdes Elementary School, and there was only 4-hour blocks. My first teacher was Mrs. Newman, and I remember her because she left an imprint in my life. And my father would actually sit in the green station wagon in the parking lot that 4 hours. And when it came close to noon, he was there to take me home. As I got older, I was allowed to ride my bicycle to school. I was raised out West Sahara area, if anyone knows where Channel 13 is, on Valley View. We had 5-acre ranch, and there were about 5-6 families that lived there. So that end of town was like going out of town. I mean, there were gravel roads and outhouses and farms, and I know grapevines and pomegranate trees, and I had every animal from rabbits to goats. That was my first pet, Nancy. She was a goat. So I have quite a good background. They were very, very spiritual. As a matter of fact, we had church in our house. My mother was a missionary. My father was a deacon. So that element of me, and Anne, you brought that out quite clearly. That's something that is embedded. And I don't care where we go or what decisions we make, we come back to that grounding. And that was my grounding. I don't believe, as I look back, if either of my parents could actually read. I don't think my father could at all. And my mother had memory. She could quote Bible and go to the chapters and sit there with this Bible. I have a picture of this old wobbly Bible that they used to have, and actually tell you any verse and be able to explain it and bring it as a parable into life. There's a hair on here. Something that's when I do this. So I learned the Bible quite well, and I learned to read actually. Any of you who went to church earlier had cards, Sunday school cards. On the front side was a picture and a Bible verse. On the back side was a story. And that's how I learned to read, by those cards. And my dad would have me sit on his lap and play with his ears and read the Bible or read the newspaper. He would actually look at the newspaper, but he never read a word. I don't ever recall my father reading a word. So I don't think that he could read, but they made sure that their little girl could. And I was always taught to be vocal, be polite, be respectful, always smile, be a lady, and articulate. There was no slurring, there was no head bowing. You are it. And that's kind of how I lived my life. As I grew up, things changed because they were older. And by junior high school, which my favorite teacher there was Mrs. Huffy. Many of you know Dorothy Huffy was my English teacher in junior high school. And I often run into her now in my world of socializing and what have you. And she always says that I was so smart. And she goes, oh, and when I went on television, she was one of the first people to call me. So, I'm exercising what I was taught. And that's why it's so important for us as parents to make the right impression and teach our kids the right way. And don't throw them out because they make a mistake, because they're little adults and they haven't experienced it, and they're going to run into other people who will influence them. But if that grounding is there, it takes good people like us who can take them back and bring them back. Because a lot of parents give up on their kids. And when you give up on your child, it affects that child. And they go find someone else who is not going to give up on them. So, that has a lot to do with my volunteering and going to various youth groups, Girl Scouts. I was a Girl Scout for 13 years. So, it's like being there and trying to be there for our young ladies and young men who don't have a role model. We don't know what they have gone through. Not everyone is blessed, as myself. Like I said, things did change by the time I got to junior high and high school. Both of my parents were deceased, so I was readopted, and that was a whole different issue. But I thank God for the grounding, and during those years that I had was wonderful.
That's a great, inspiring story. And I think that's so important, like you said, as far as parents not giving up on their children. And not only parents, but the community as a whole. The old saying is, it takes a village to raise a child, and I think we all need to remember that. So,
well, that is something that was true perhaps in the era that we grew up in. It takes a village. But now with our younger parents, and I see it in the grocery stores, I'm sure all of you see it in places you go, kids are running all over. They're disrespectful. They don't know, they have no fear. There's no fear of God. There's no fear of parents. There's no fear of authority. And those are the things that are taught in the home. See, we are our family's first teachers. But with this new generation, the unfortunate thing is the time is not being taken to teach those things. Is it economics? Could be. Is it drugs and alcohol? That plays a large percentage, a large part of it, because you have 30-year-old women now who are grandmothers. So grandmother used to be the one who held down the fort. I mean, she had the rules, you did it right. But if you've got a grandmother who's in the club dropping it like it's hot with her daughter and granddaughter, I mean, what kind of role model is that? I mean, I'm just saying. I'm sure you can attest to this. You run into a lot of young ladies who have had no role models. They have no idea. And it is very, very difficult to reach these young people. It's very difficult to reach their mothers, because I feel like, and I often pray about it, is what are the next 2 generations going to be like? We've got that mother, that's a generation that's gone. Then you've got the daughter who's out there doing what the mother's doing and already has another child. That's 2 generations that are gone. What are we doing? And that's straight across the board. It has nothing to do with ethnicity. It has to do with people and belief and how people change and how we tend, even as religious people, give up on our kids because you just can't do it. You can't. You have to be there. Regardless of what mistakes they make, you have to be there.
That's so true. Yes, thank you. And she's a testimonial too, as far as if someone does reach out into love, what this person can turn out to be. I mean, sometimes we think that if we lose parents or we don't have loving parents or whatever, or a community that will help, that we're doomed. And Lillian has proven that, with loving parents or loving people in her life, that she can make something of herself, and she's actually paying back, that and through the community big time. And you deal with nonprofits too. You help nonprofits start up, is that correct?
Right. Primarily, that's all I deal with. I mean, maybe small businesses, but primarily I deal with our nonprofit community. And pretty much there's not a nonprofit in this town that I haven't touched at some way at some time, whether it be helping with a fundraiser from the ground floor up, doing the articles of incorporation, sitting at a table just discussing this is what we want to do. I mean, I remember when we started FIT, Foundation for an Independent Tomorrow, Janet had called me and said, okay, this is what I want to do. Being very well off, she wanted to give back to the community. What can I do? And my goodness, when we first started, I mean, we did everything from dental to getting the hair done to eyes. We donated our clothes, so there was a closet for people to go and get a suit and interview. So, these are the things that we have to help people along the way. That I believe in that. I believe in helping and giving back, whether it's to your community, to your church, to your neighbor, because not everybody is inclined to go out to some strange neighborhood and talk to them and give back. I mean, I started Girl Scout troops in the hood, so and the Girl Scout troop when juvenile detention. We had a Girl Scout troop. But these are things that not a lot of people want to step into that realm. But there's always something you can do to your neighbor, in your community, in your block. Help someone. I mean, it's just, to me, that's just the thing to do, is be able to be helpful and give back.
I think that's so true. And you don't have to have $1 million to do it. And like yesterday was International Women's Day, Day of Women, and there was a women's clothing drive. So I mean, you clean out your closets, you give a little bit of clothes. I mean, even as 1 or 2 items. And
That's right.
yeah, I think we can definitely do something, and we don't need to have $1 million to do it.
Right.
So now, as far as like we touched upon the nonprofit, and I'm sure there might be some people in the audience that would like to start a nonprofit. How, would they be able to get in touch with you? How can they connect with you?
I have a table actually, because I have a digital book, 10 Golden Keys to Effective Business Networking, because that's what I do, is network consistently. So just stop by my table, grab a card. You can always call me, email me, it doesn't matter. Google me, Facebook, MySpace, all of them, Twitter, I'm there. So there's no reason when people say, oh, I couldn't reach you. No, I don't think that was the truth, because I am very, very reachable, hands-on. People don't understand. I mean, you could walk up hands-on. I own a restaurant, and I have several people come through and go, what are you doing here? I mean, I said, because this is what I do. I own a store in the hood on D Street, and I go there. And people say, Lillian McMorris? Yes. Hasn't made a profit in 2 years, but that's okay. It helps the people who are economically challenged in that neighborhood. And that's what's important. That's what's important to me.
Okay, and thank you, Lillian. And we talked about as far as Girl Scouts, and we reconnected because there was Career Day. And just a little plug, one of the booths over there is Girl Scout booth, and I don't know where she's at. Yeah, over here.
Did she bring some cookies?
And she brought some cookies.
As long as she brought some cookies, that's right.
So, when the exhibit's open, make sure you support your local Girl Scouts.
That's right.
Okay. And
I was with the mayor. I was with the mayor the other day, and we were doing a dedication, something at a funeral home or something. And this lady comes in, and she's got this big thing of Girl Scout cookies tied with a big ribbon. We were gonna beat up Carolyn and take her cookies.
I know it'd make a mad rush down there. And so, yeah, I was a Girl Scout, and I was a Girl Scout leader, and so I definitely support the Girl Scouts. And I was excited that one of the Girl Scouts could come here. So, thank you, Lillian, so
My
much. It's been
pleasure.
a pleasure. I'm so grateful, that you're here, and you're a blessing to this community.
Thank you. Shall we tell them what's coming up? Because, see, you're
Yes.
doing all of this talking, and I bet you all want to know a little bit about Mitzi, right? So I get to do that. That's right.
Yes, we're gonna switch roles
That's
later.
right.
Yes.
So you get to find out about Mitzi.
Yes, yes.
So
So,
she'll sit here all day and talk to all of us, and she won't tell her story. But we're going to get her story.
yeah, that's me. I promote everyone else, but not myself. So, okay, she's gonna put me in the hot seat later. So,
Absolutely.
thank you,
Thank
Lillian.
you.